Do you get your beard done when you get your hair cut?
Oh, yeah. Bro, yes. A haircut is a beard cut.
Is a beard cut? Yeah. I like my guy so much that I wish I had a beard because that's like what he specializes in. Like you go, it's like in a 1950 barbershop. There's all these pictures of Elvis, and he like crushes beards with my buddies, and I'm like, I don't want a beard just because I want to get it done.
Can you grow a beard?
Mostly it's on my neck. It's like down, I think the highest it goes is like here. And then it all goes like down this Scottish beard that connects to my chest.
You got a neck beard.
Oh, welcome into a special edition of Scoop City on a Tuesday. I'm James Palmer. We have a monster week of games kicked off by the Packers and Lions, maybe the biggest game of the entire week, and we get that one right out of the gate on Thanksgiving. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Do it. You know you want to. Listen, we are going to talk about the Cowboys' playoff hopes. If they lose this game to the Chiefs, how slim are their chances? We'll dive into that. The Steelers looks like it's slipping away. The Ravens are surging. But what's wrong with Lamar in that offense? We'll break that down as well. And what's wrong with the Bills offense and Josh Allen? Could there be something they could do to fix things in Buffalo down the stretch? We'll get to all of that. And when I say we, I mean me and Chase Daniel joining me once again. Here he is. It's not the backdrop we saw yesterday, but he's still in the same location. And I saw on the IG, you swung the sticks yesterday.
I did.
How did we play?
We played all right. I think I shot at 87, 86, but I also finished with like 5 straight double bogeys. So I started really well. Parred the first hole. Even had a birdie in there as well. But I don't play enough. You know what I mean?
No, I get it. If I were you, I would have just told everybody, I was so busy I only could play 9, and then just keep your 9 score. And just that's what you should just vote.
Nice.
Yeah, you know, I get to spend some time with the family. I only played 9, squeeze it in, crushed it. Listen, Chase, we got a lot to break down. We're going to go straight through Thursday before we bring in Zach Kiefer, who's going to join us in the middle of this show to go through some of the other monster games. He knows the Colts so well. We'll see if they can bounce back against the Texans after their loss to the Chiefs. So we're going to go through Thursday, you and I. And obviously, the big one right out of the gate is Packers and Lions. It's just a monster game because of the way this division has shaped up so far. Right now, it's the Bears leading the North at 8-3. Packers 7-3-1. The Lions at 7-4. The Lions win this game, though, Chase. They jump into second place. If the Bears lose to the Eagles on Friday, that Black Friday game, and we'll get to that, they move from third into first before we even hit Sunday's slate of games.
Crazy.
This is a wild one. When there's
division.
when there's so much familiarity, and these teams are all going to play each other so much down the stretch. What is practice week like in a building when you know each other so well and everybody's playing at a really high level?
Yeah, that's a great question. And when you do get in these late season divisional games, it's really not about personnel, because in so much of the time you have to figure out how to match personnel for other teams. Hey, what are we doing here? You know what they're going to do. They know what you're going to do. And so it really just comes down to practice execution, right? So you're not trying to reinvent the wheel 12, 13, 14 weeks into the season. You're trying to find, especially when you know who you're playing, you're trying to find little bitty tidbits through the week that'll get you over the hump, whether it be like, hey, last week we had this tight end on the right. Let's move him to the left and then motion him to, or just you try to run the same plays that are successful against certain teams, but you try to do it in certain different ways, whether it's personnel groupings, whether it's formationally, whether it's
motioning a guy
or shifts, or let's just add this. So you really want the main thing that you do to continue to be the main thing, but you try to figure out ways to trick them. And it's not even about tricking them. It's like, hey, how do we figure out how to beat this team that knows us so well? Because they know what our starting left corner is. They know exactly what our starting right corner is. They knew all of this stuff. And so for you, it's like, that's how the great coaches separate from the good coaches, because it does come down to coaching and it does come down to game planning.
Chase, the focal point of their entire offense, Tucker Kraft, is out for the season. What have you seen that's different in Jordan Love and this group with him off the field? Obviously, there's talent in other places to go with the football. They didn't have Josh Jacobs last week. We know how different Jordan Love is with him on the field or off the field at the run game. But how different is this offense when you don't have the focal point that Kraft was becoming?
Yeah, I mean, he is the focal point, because you watch and just how they're able to design different plays in different personnel groupings versus 11 personnel where there's one back, one tight end, or there's 12 personnel with Tucker Kraft and the other tight end. They do so many of those type of things. That sort of has gone to the wayside. So in 12 personnel right now, you're getting base defense because you're like, oh, both those tight ends, you don't need nickel defense.
It's not the threat. Yeah.
It's not the threat passing, and then do we run? And I just think they're going through a figuring out phase on, okay, we had our identity offensively, and it struggled at times, even with Tucker Kraft, right? Because they just haven't been able to get a full offensive performance, in my opinion. And I think it's because when I say full offensive performance, meaning like the consistency week in and week out, they're trying to figure out still who they are without Tucker Kraft. And that's hard to do. And to me, it just looks like, even with Tucker Kraft in the game, LaFleur is trying to do too much offensively. Like, they're trying to reinvent the wheel every single week. They're trying to become almost overly dynamic on offense. Like, hey, we've never seen a tight end and a running back do this on a running block combination, or we haven't ever seen a. They're just trying to do too much, like pre-snap, and they're trying to run all these cool plays where you motion the running back around and you're running counter. It's cool to see, but at some point you got to figure out, LaFleur does offensively, how do our guys play fast? And when we play fast and when we know exactly what we're doing, we're the best. That's what Andy Reid and Sean Payton used to do, is like, hey, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel offensively. We just want to put defenses in a lot of mass confusion based on shifts and motions. That's fine, but we're running the same plays offensively. Yeah. That's what I just think offensively the Packers are. They're trying to do too much. I think Jordan Love can handle it, but when you have so much on your plate, you sort of worry about, okay, well, the shift is coming from this side this time, or this motion's coming from this side. Okay, and then all of a sudden you're thinking about, oh, what's the play? And you have 10 seconds to think about the play, and he's really smart and he's able to handle that. I just think they need to simplify. I think they need to get freaking Josh Jacobs back. That's a huge part of that deal, because they are an under center play action type team. And it's been really difficult without Tucker Kraft for sure.
Yeah, certainly. I will say this. It feels like the Lions, they get some pressure, but it takes a minute for them to get there. Aiden Hutchinson closed out the game against the Giants. That was their only sack of the game. And that comes in overtime. And they've been taking them. They're very persistent, and they're very, the high motor guys that they have. But if Jordan Love can stand in that pocket, compared to outside the pocket, he's been outstanding this year. So we'll see if that can happen. Looking at it from the reverse side and looking at Dan Campbell running this Lions offense, what's been very interesting to me, Chase, is that they're kind of relying on Jahmyr Gibbs, and I'll get to that in a moment. It seems like Amon-Ra St. Brown is in a little bit of a funk. Like 3 drops is like crazy for a season for him. Yeah. He usually has like a drop. He's still productive, but he's kind of literally hasn't been entirely himself. They have no Sam Laporta. It seemed like they wanted to get Jameson Williams involved, getting that deeper threat. He's second in the NFL in yards per catch, and in the first 2 games that Dan Campbell was running this offense, he was averaging over 92 yards a game. Then last week he doesn't have a catch. I'm curious if they can get those explosive plays when you look at the group they're going against. When it's Micah Parsons and that speed that they have as a group up front. He's leading the NFL in a number of categories, including the quick pressures that he gets, that 2.5 seconds or under, and he gets there. So I don't know if the deep game's there. It feels right now that they're almost waiting for Jahmyr Gibbs to make a play. Is that kind of... Sometimes you get into that as an offense because one guy is becoming so electric, so dynamic. It's kind of like they were waiting for him to, hey, can you win this Giants game for us?
Well, that's a great question. And I think you got to look at who's calling the plays now, and that's Dan Campbell. And so what's Dan Campbell's background? It's Sean Payton. And Sean Payton, literally what he does, he tries to feed his stars the football. And so he's gotten Jahmyr Gibbs going, and they've become a little bit, not one-dimensional, but they've been able to use Gibbs, and the focal point for sure is a run-first attack, and they're doing that. And then everything now comes off of play action. Well, against the Packers, here's what I think Dan needs to do, and it's exactly, I'm telling you, it's exactly what Sean Payton used to do on weeks where we would be facing like DeMarcus Ware, or just guys that just get
downhill.
Everything on that game plan starts with protection, and it has to start with protection, because that offensive line hasn't played up to their standard and what they normally do as far as pass protection wise. Run wise, they're doing a really nice job, but you're going to start with your game plan. Okay, how do we get the ball down the field Here's 5 or 6 plays. All right, let's get 4 hands, 2 guys on Micah Parsons every single way. And it's not just, hey, let's slide to him every time. Hey, can we get a back and 2 running backs? Can we get a back and a tight end? Can we get 2 tight ends opposite side, one knocking him down, trying to cut him? There's so many different ways you can do that, and that's what it has to start with. And then if that handles it, and you're going to test this early in the game, if Mike is not getting the pressure that they will, then that's where Jameson Williams comes involved. And that's so there's sort of tiers that you have to hit within a game when you have a pass rusher like this. Is, hey, can we hold up a lot of quick game? And I just think Dan Campbell, he's done a really nice job, I think, being pretty down the middle on run versus pass. But I think for him, he's trying to get his stars the football. He's trying to get his stars involved. And you have to get those guys between Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jameson Williams. Those guys need to touch the ball 35 times. Like at least 35 times between those 3. And so it's finding different ways to get those guys the football. I just feel like they really haven't hit their stride offensively. They're not blowing people out like they used to. The defense is still really good. I think they're still trying to find their way. And quite honestly, it might be the catalyst last week with the win over Jameis. It's like you, in my mind, got outplayed the entire game. And you're just able to figure out a way. And then Jahmyr Gibbs, to me, is offensive player of the year right now. Like he is unbelievable. You got to imagine, though, this Packers defense is going to find a way to stop him, and then Jared Goff's going to have to win it through the air.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Listen, Micah Parsons is the most double-teamed player in the NFL this season when you look at the next-gen stats. And to me, Chase, you also look at that interior of the Lions' offensive line, which has struggled. Yeah. If you got to give pressure to Micah like you have to, other spots can open up. And one of the things that teams have done to try to slow down Jahmyr Gibbs is honestly blitz at him. Make him have to have another role first before he can do something. We'll see what they can end up doing. We're talking about the Lions here because they're going to play the Cowboys next Thursday. So let's move on to the Cowboys and Chiefs. And this game is getting billed as perhaps the trifecta of Thanksgiving, Chiefs Kingdom, America's team, as possibly the most watched game in NFL regular season history. 50 million is what you're calling.
Yes. I mean, look, it's probably not going to be 50 million, but it's going to be it's going to be electric. I mean, because you're right. It's like, first of all, like I got to play on Thanksgiving and I got to play against the Lions, and we were the early game and we got like 30 million, and it wasn't even a good game.
And that was those Lions.
Yeah, those were those Lions. And then you look at the Cowboys, who just come off a big game, and then you look at the Chiefs, who just come off the big game. It's probably the 2 biggest brands right now in football as far as, so 50 million is not out of reach, man.
That's awesome. I'm excited. I mean, I'll be one of the 50 million. I guarantee that.
Me too.
This is a monster game. Obviously, both teams come off of a dramatic come-from-behind victory and almost a must-win type of scenario. Very much more a must-win for the Cowboys, I would say, than the Chiefs. They're hanging on to the playoff hopes by a thread, but that defense has gotten better. Dak is playing well with that group. 2 things I want to focus on in this game, and I want your thoughts on each of them after I go through it. It's really the trenches to me and with both of these teams. And I'll start with the offensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs. And you saw the way that they were kind of able to hold up, but no DeForest Buckner for that Colts defense this past week. And that's a big problem that they didn't have to deal with. When you look at the 3 interior guys in Osa Odigizua and Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams, and you have Trey Smith, who's going to be out, who's one of the highest paid, best guards in football, and playing in the middle of that group, I'm fascinated to see how this group up front for Kansas City can, A, play well and run the ball against this Dallas front, like they were able to stick against the run against the Colts, and then protect Patrick Mahomes where things can get blown up very quickly through the middle. How do you see this matchup, Chase?
Well, I think that the Cowboys are going to give them some fits. And I do think the interior 3 offensive linemen, for anyone who's playing quarterback, is the most important offensive lineman of the group, meaning especially under Patrick Mahomes, he likes to step up inside of the pocket and then get out. Now, if you lose contain against them, you're done, you're dead. But I just think these 3 interior guys, and then you have Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams, Dallas does no longer have to blitz to get pressure. They can get pressure with 4. And what I did not like about the Colts game plan against Mahomes is they played a lot of man coverage. They blitzed 5 and 6 guys, and that is the absolute worst coverage you can play against Patrick Mahomes. He's going to crush that every single time. The Cowboys play a lot of zone. And when you play a lot of zone, it just forces Mahomes to be a little bit more patient and going through his progressions. And we talked about this yesterday. That's not something he has not been doing as of late. So I do like the matchup up front. I just think ultimately what the Chiefs and Andy Reid need to do early in the game is they need to figure out a way to control the line of scrimmage. And that's if that's Kareem Hunt 10 carries in the first 2 drives, so be it. And if you're what I've found lately, and I went back and rewatched it with a keen eye, this Colts game versus the Chiefs, is the Chiefs really wanted to control the football. And they did. They had 33 first downs, a lot of yards, first 100-yard receiver and 100-yard rusher in a game. And that's the balance they need. Those big plays down the field will come eventually, either by design and scheme or by Mahomes running out on the side and doing his Mahomes stuff. I just think that if the Cowboys can keep Mahomes inside the pocket, make him win from inside, and only rush for and get interior push, it might be a long day offensively for the Chiefs. That's why the Chiefs can no longer be just one-dimensional and say, hey, Mahomes, let's drop back 50 times in this game. I think you're going to see 30 carries from the Chiefs this game.
30 carries back-to-back weeks. Is this Andy Reid's team? I don't know. When I look at it from the reverse side before we move on, we've always, maybe one of the things that has been overlooked over the last several years of this Chiefs dynasty is when a play needs to be made at a big moment in a game, it seems like this Chiefs defensive line finds a way to do it. And that D-line has been very, very good, and they've been very, very impactful on quarterbacks, specifically in key spots. Now, you've seen Chris Jones play more snaps than he's ever played. They've been a little bit more thin up front, and we haven't seen them being as impactful as they have been in years past, except this past week where they didn't sack Daniel Jones, but they definitely impacted the timing of some throws, impacted the accuracy with some throws, and got that pressure on him. I don't think that's the same with Dak Prescott. When I talked to people in Philadelphia after that comeback that Dak had against them, it was, hey, we got to give him credit, Chase. He stood in the pocket. He delivered balls in soft spots of our zone, layered some balls against us, and wasn't really impacted. And we know how good that front is for Philadelphia with Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and Jalen Phillips and really Nolan Smith, and they're really good. So I'm curious if Kansas City has the ability to impact Dak. And then the other part of it is the Colts really got away from running the football in the second half because of the way this D-line stuffed it up. One of the things that kept that Eagles defense honest was even down in that game, Dallas continued to use Javonte Williams in the run game to stay balanced, and were able to come back and play the way they played. I'm fascinated to see what happens with that particular matchup. Okay, the other one that's happening on Thursday is Bengals and Ravens. So, this Ravens team, 1-5, and now they're 6-5, leading the division. But I want us to make a quick pivot here to the Cincinnati 3-8 Bengals. Just as a quarterback, Joe Burrow, would you play him? Obviously, he wants to play. We know how competitive he is and how quickly he's come back. But would you play him, and why? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, if Joe Burrow feels healthy enough to go out there and play, you're playing him. He's the franchise. He's gotten everything that he's wanted. I mean, the Bengals are Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow is the Bengals. And so he ultimately has that decision. I think last week was a little bit, hey, you know what? Let's just give it one more week. This is a major division game. This is like the Bengals are not going to make the playoffs, but for me, it's like, hey, how can I derail the Ravens? I want to get out there. I want to show people that, hey, I still got it. I mean, not that I still got it. Obviously, we know who Joe Burrow is, but he hasn't been in the news. He hasn't played. He hasn't done all that stuff. So if he wants to play, I think you play. And I think that they're still really good offensively. It's just the defensive stuff that really matters. And why wouldn't you, if you're Joe Burrow and the Bengals and you can play and you're healthy enough, why wouldn't you want to go out there and ruin sort of the Ravens' sort of 5-game win streak, right? No one in their world thought that the Ravens would be 6-5 after 1-5. Well, Lamar Jackson's back. They're not playing good offensively. And so that game specifically, I mean, I think last year it was like 42-45 or something. It just goes back and forth. Joe and Jamar went crazy.
Jamar went crazy. And then it just, I would absolutely play. I think it's up to the quarterback, and Joe Burrow's earned that right to be able to decide if he wants to play or not, but I would absolutely play him.
Yeah, and as a fan, I want to see him on the field. I mean, Joe's just one of the best in the game. You mentioned it in the middle of that, Chase, that Lamar Jackson in this offense have not been what we're used to seeing. The defense has actually been carrying them through this 5-game win streak. And when I look at this offense, it almost is very peculiar because of two reasons. The first one being they really believe that this was the most most amount of talent that they've had around Lamar at the skill positions, maybe in his time in Baltimore. And they thought the role for Isaiah Likely was going to increase and they'd play these 3 tight ends, but then he ends up being hurt and Mark Andrews isn't off to the start that they wanted to. And they thought Zay Flowers was going to take this jump and DeAndre Hopkins is only getting a handful of snaps. And it's been really interesting to see all of these different moving pieces that they were so excited about haven't really come together. And that's been one aspect of the way this offense is struggled. The second part is when I talk to some people going back and watching the film, and this is what I want to ask you is that you're seeing plays in these last couple of games where Lamar says he's healthy, but he's had the hamstring and then the knee and then the ankle and now it's the toe. Again, no quarterback will say I'm unhealthy, but you see in the film when I ask people, he rolls out, guys are dropping. The threat of the run is in the elusiveness and everything that comes with it. Defenses have changed the way they're playing a little bit. Are you seeing that, and can you give us a little more, insight into the way they're looking at him?
I mean, absolutely. Like he's not fully healthy, and that's fine because it just seems like every little thing. And even if it's hard for people out there to understand, but even if you're a right-handed throwing quarterback and your left shoulder's a little jacked up, or your left knee, or just something, or your toe. Every single thing, every single small injury, it adds up for a quarterback. And while you're not going to say you're hurt or you're not going to say you're injured, when you go out there into the field, you're just not feeling 100%, and it just affects you way more, maybe mentally, than you think. And I think that's happening with Lamar. Lamar's still making plays when he needs to. It has not looked the same. And all those guys you said earlier when you were talking about the Ravens, all those guys are really good players.
Yeah.
Every single one is really good players. So it's really the offense as a whole that hasn't really stepped up the game. I don't think the offensive line has played that well, to be completely honest with you. And with Lamar, like, you look at really the last 2 years, a year and a half, him throwing the football, it's as best as I've ever seen him throw the football in his entire career. So it's there. It's just, hey, can you get healthy enough? And we always say this all the time, right? The most banged up team, they're going to win the Super Bowl because you're going to get injured. You're going to get that. Is it injury or is it hurt? And I like that he's obviously gives him the best chance to win. But it's going to be interesting to see how he's able to figure it out. Because if I'm the Bengals, I might actually end up bringing pressure versus him, knowing that you got to keep him in. And maybe Lamar has never been a guy to throw the ball like right away. He likes to hold on to the ball. These are these deeper developing routes, and I like that. If I was the Bengals, I would pressure him early to see how healthy he is in that toe, right? How healthy that is. And if you can do that and get to him, it's going to be an interesting game.
It really is. And one other thing that's very, very different for this Baltimore Ravens team, and it can change on a dime, is the way they finish drives, Chase, in the red zone. They were the number one red zone offense in the NFL last year at like 74%. Over the last 3 games, they're at 35%. They're ranked 30th this year as a red zone team. And with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, that just almost makes you go like, how is that possible? So if they fix that, I do think obviously some of our conversations dramatically change if they change some of the red zone stuff. And talking about our conversations, we're going to add a third member to this. After the break, we're going to bring in Zach Kiefer from The Athletic. He's going to talk about some Colts issues. He knows them so well. What's happening Friday with the Bears and the Eagles on the Black Friday game? Huge. All of that coming up on this special edition of Scoop City on a Tuesday. Oh, welcome back to a special edition of Scoop City on this Tuesday, this Thanksgiving week. And Chase and I broke down some games on Thanksgiving in the A block. Now we are bringing in our good buddy Zach Kiefer from The Athletic to talk about some of those games from Friday and beyond. Zach, we're going to start off with that Black Friday game between the Bears and the Eagles. Obviously, Philly loses a little bit of a stranglehold on that NFC top spot with their loss to the Cowboys. Obviously, the Bears are playing out of their minds right now and somehow winning some of these games at 8-3. What do you feel like you need to see from Philadelphia? Because sometimes I also believe these standalone games, sometimes all the eyes on you, everybody's looking for something when a team has some question marks that's as good as Philly.
Yeah, don't you guys think Philly's going to come into this one really ticked off, really angry? Yeah. Like you said, it's a national standalone game. This is a team stacked with talent that likes the spotlight. All eyes are going to be on them. And they're welcoming in a Bears team that's all of a sudden 8-3, top of their division, and cannot stop winning these close games. I mean, are the Bears like legit? Their win over the Steelers on Sunday is the first time they've beaten a team that's like above 500 all season. Now, that's not the Bears' fault per se, but I just feel like the Eagles are going to be ticked off on Sunday. The reality is They have no run game right now. Saquon Barkley is his 100-yard game this season. Last year, he had 8 at this time. Until that gets going, I feel like everything else is just going to be in disarray.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think the biggest thing, Zach and James, is like when you look at the Eagles offensively and just match them up versus the Bears' opportunistic defense, they've had a ton of takeaways. I think they have like 3 guys in the top 5 in interceptions. Jalen Hurts doesn't really throw a lot of interceptions, but if you can, I mean, this is sort of what the Eagles have struggled with all year long, offensively. If you stop the run, which most teams have, and you're able to get pressure on Jalen Hurts early, he hasn't, for the most part, won games with his arm through the air. And I think that's what the Bears have to do defensively, is continue to bring these exotic pressures, continue to get pressure, stop the run first and foremost, getting off the bus. But when you do have the Eagles at home, it just brings a whole nother dynamic. That crowd goes into it. I think you're going to find out a whole lot about the Bears team, right? Because that's the biggest thing for me, is like they keep winning these games and you can't change your schedule. So all these people that are saying, oh, well, their schedule, dude, they finished like 3rd or 4th in their division. They're playing an easy schedule because of that last year.
Patriots aren't complaining.
No,
Chase.
and the Patriots aren't. And they're winning these games despite, James, what we said yesterday, and Zach, is like they have a middling quarterback. He's not playing great. He's not playing awful. He's learning how to play. The Bears are a run-first team now. And so if you can go in there and you can control the clock against this Philly team who likes to control the clock, you got a chance. I just think even if it's close, then I'm like, okay, the Bears, they're sort of callous. They've won these tight games. I just don't know if Jalen Hurts and company can make enough plays at the end of the game to win this. I think ultimately they do because of the defensive side of the ball for the Eagles. But, man, you lose a heartbreaker in Dallas and you go back home, short week. It's going to be a lot of people watching, too. It's going to be a good game.
Yeah, I think so. I think what the strength of this Philly team is, as they struggle with a variety of things offensively, is just their mantra and their mission statement as an offense is what? We're going to never turn the football over. And they're dead last in turnovers in the NFL. They have 6 this season. It's what Nick Sirianni does. They win the turnover battle. He's 40-2. It's what they do as an offense. It's what Jalen Hurts does maybe best, is make sure he doesn't put them in bad situations. And when I look at what the Bears have done, in their 8 wins this season, they've forced at least 2 turnovers in every one of those games. 4-4, 3-4, 3-1, 2-2. It's wild that they've done that. And so in their 3 losses, they've only forced 1 total turnover, and that's just kind of the way Philly plays. The other part of it I wanted to ask you real quick before we move on to the next one is, do you feel like there's a sense in Philadelphia with the run game, as Zach mentioned how bad it has been, that there is a part of it with the tush push and the physicality and how banged up they are on the offensive line, that they're just a little worn out? When I look at Saquon, and this stat just blew me away, and I put it out on the socials hoping it would pick up, but I'm not sure it has. He had 482 total touches last year. Any player since 2000 to now, that's 25 years, that has had more than 470 touches in a season has never rushed for 1,000 yards the next year. Is there a sense, Zach, you get in this offense that maybe like they're just a little beaten down from what they had to do last year in the run game?
I think it's a couple of things. And if you go back to last year, especially the playoff run, this guy was popping 40, 50, 60 yarders every single week. And we talked about the 2,000 yards. I think it's really hard to back that up. And there's a couple of layers into this, and I want to get your guys' thoughts. 1, absolutely, he was a workhorse last year. 2, do you guys think the tush push camouflages some of their offensive issues? It's essentially a cheat code, right? They converted almost every time. I watched a game earlier this season where they ran it on 3 consecutive snaps. It feels like because they convert that so often, it covers up the fact that this is not an offense that is humming right now. They didn't do anything in the second half Sunday in Dallas. They had a couple fumbles. It just feels like until that offensive line is right, and that's not going to be right until Lane Johnson is back, they're not going to be the same explosive unit that they were. But like you said, it's really tough to live up to the 2024 version of the Eagles. I'm just not sure I'm going to see it in December and January this year.
Yeah, quick thing to add on that. I do think there's something to be said about just worn out and tiredness. And I don't even necessarily think it's the touches. I mean, that's obviously one of the things. I just think when you play as many games as the Eagles did last year and you get to the Super Bowl and you have this long drawn out run, you don't have any off season, you're back in April, you're still going through it. I mean, these guys just haven't had a lot of time off, yet they're still winning. I think that ultimately plays, especially down the stretch run. They just got to figure out ways to run the football, man. And it just doesn't look like they're going to fix it this year. Like, I don't know, like you are what you are, sort of 11, 12, 13 games into the year. And what can you do differently? It's just, man, I don't know. They just have offensive issues, man. They're not turning the football over, but they're not really scoring either.
No, yeah. They get into the red zone. They're one of the best teams in football. It's just getting to the red zone.
Yes, that's the issue.
Their issue as an offense. But, you know, that's one of the things. And the last thing I'll say on this game is you saw the way Dallas took advantage of those 3 injuries in the secondary from Philadelphia. And Cooper DeJean was slid outside, which is something I'm always told by people in Philadelphia. They don't like him being out there as a boundary corner. And George Pickens took advantage of it. We know Ben Johnson's going to be aggressive. And there's skill guys there. If Philly is shorthanded, I'm not going to stop Ben Johnson from trying to go downfield and trying to make some plays. You know he's an aggressive play caller. Yeah. All right, Zach, let's get to the Texans and Colts. You know more about the Colts than maybe anybody I know. The first thing I want to jump out and say is Daniel Jones. Everybody in these type of games, like last week against Kansas City or when Sam Darnold's going against the Rams, are they going to rise to the moment? When I talked to people in Kansas City, it was, we knew if we stopped Jonathan Taylor, we could rattle Daniel Jones. That was their opinion. What is the opinion from yourself and people in Indianapolis right now after Kansas City heading into this game against a really talented Texans defense about the quarterback?
If you're going to say coming off Sunday that they rattled Daniel Jones late, then you're going to say they rattled Shane Steichen as well, because I didn't like anything of what he did in the fourth quarter and overtime. And that's the bigger discussion here is, there is a conversation in Indianapolis happening right now, mostly among the fan base, that is Daniel Jones going to revert to the norm, right? Is he going to play like he did in New York? Is water going to find its level, right? They beat up on a lot of cupcakes early in the season, and he looked tremendous, and there was MVP talk. What's their best win? You know, they beat the Broncos because of that leaping call late in the game. Now, they played right with the Broncos the whole game. They beat up a Chargers team that doesn't have any tackles. Other than that, there isn't a really good win on this schedule. Now they've lost 2 of 3, and Jones has been the reason why. I hated what Shane Steichen did late. They had 3 straight 3-and-outs. They couldn't get Taylor going. And like you said, KC's approach was very simple. Chris Jones, go stop Jonathan Taylor, and Daniel Jones will not beat us. They have offensive weapons besides Daniel Jones and besides Jonathan Taylor. They need to figure out how to use those guys better. But until this team starts to beat a really good team this time of year with their quarterback playing a central role, those concerns and those worries are going to be very much there, because this by no means is a division race that's over.
Wow, I have nothing to add, because that is absolutely exactly what I was going to say. And like, it's perfect. I mean, it is truly spot on. I just think overall arching theme is like, Daniel Jones played out of his mind early, and he sort of quieted some people. And then as time goes on and as games go on and as he's sort of leveling off. I don't think he's going to dip to where it was like New York style. My thing is, this team goes as Jonathan Taylor goes. And that is the catalyst. That is the key. That's the problem, because you do have to be able to throw the football outside to win, because what are teams going to do? They're going to put 8, 9 guys in the box. You just got to figure out, Shane Steichen's got to figure out different ways and different strategies to get your best player of the football, because he was an MVP talk and now it's sort of died down and all this stuff. I just think defensively they got to play good defense and they got to run the football, and then Daniel Jones has to make throws when needed.
Yeah, this is the ultimate test. I mean, this is arguably the best defense in football. You're going to face them 2 more times for this game, and then you finish the season against Houston. And I love what Zach said about the division, because if you look at what the Colts have remaining, Chase, Texans, at Jags, at Seahawks, 49ers, Jags, Texans. Not only has the number 1 seed been withering away here, what would happen, Zach, before we move on, just quickly, if they don't end up winning the division after the way they started? Because the end of this season is a gauntlet.
I was there in 2021 when they blew a 99.9% chance to make the playoffs by losing to the Raiders and then the Jaguars in week 17. The Jaguars fans showed up that day with clown masks on their heads because team they were rooting for was a clown organization, and they whooped the Colts that day. That thought is still very much in this team's mind. Why? Because that was when Jonathan Taylor went off. He was an MVP candidate that season, broke Edgerrin James' franchise record for rushing yards in a season. They never even sniffed a snap in the playoffs. Now they need to do this. And like you said, they have a gauntlet the rest of the way. It's not just Seattle and San Francisco. It's 2 games against the best defense going right now in Houston. They go at Jacksonville. When is the last time the Colts won in Jacksonville? 2014, Andrew Luck's 3rd year. That's like ancient times in this city. So if this team's going to win this division and get in the playoffs, and that's the key, they want to win the division and have a home playoff game for the first time in 11 years. They're going to have to do it the hard way, and they're going to have to find a way to finish these games against these very good teams that they didn't on Sunday in Arrowhead.
Was that home game 2013?
2014, they beat Andy Dalton and the Bengals.
Okay, because the year before was the biggest. I was on that Chiefs team where Andrew Luck dives. That was
38
so
to 10.
bad.
Right.
Oh my God, that was awful.
Not in Indy, man. Not in Indy.
Yeah, sorry we brought that up, Chase. Listen, talking about some teams trying to just survive the end of the season, let's talk about these last 2 here in this block, and the Bills and the Steelers. Steelers are have lost now the division lead with the Ravens taking it at 6-5. They've lost 4 of their last 6. The Bills have lost 4 of their last 7. I want to focus on Buffalo in this, Zach, in all honesty, just because we saw the way this offense performed last year. I think it just clicked in all the right ways, and it's almost doing the opposite right now. And it almost seems, and I'll ask Chase this aspect of it on what he's seeing from Josh Allen and the way he's searching. But what are you seeing from the offense as a whole? And Joe Biscaglia, who writes for us on and covers the Bills, brought up an interesting proposition of Brian Daboll's just hanging out. Could you bring him in as another set of eyes, a senior consultant, if you will, just somebody, because there's nothing else you can do in terms of bodies to change where you are as an offense?
Boy, that would be messy, wouldn't it, Chase? I mean, wouldn't you agree?
Do you remember some of those battles between him and McDermott?
You're backing Joe Brady as your OC. You're behind him. You believe in him. These are the things they're saying publicly. And then you bring in a guy who was Josh Allen's famous mentor. I mean, the reality with the Bills is they are the most frustrating thing. And the specter that's hanging over this team is so interesting because they're in Josh Allen's prime. They need to win right now. They get a once-in-a-lifetime quarterback, and every year that goes by that they don't win, the pressure builds. And the reality is you can't wait, but you have this young offense. You can't stop the run to save your life. And the blueprint is pretty simple. If Josh Allen plays like Superman, they win. 6 touchdowns a couple weeks ago, unbelievable game. They blow out whoever they were playing. If he's not Superman, they are eminently beatable. They are the 4th or 5th best team in the AFC, even with that guy on their roster, which is a huge indictment of where this team is at. The offense sputters. Allen tries to play like hero ball, then he plays reserved. It just doesn't seem like they have an offensive identity. And it just feels like this is looking like a first-round exit unless Josh Allen goes on this all-time Steph Curry run, which he's absolutely capable of doing. But I don't like the way this team's playing right now.
Is this Haley Steinfeld's fault, Chase?
No, come on, bro. I do think, when we've talked about it before, it's the same thing. When the Buffalo Bills can't run the football, they have no one on the outside to win. And if you don't have anyone out on the outside to win, then what does Josh Allen do? He looks in the slot and he has to buy some time, and he plays hero ball and he does this. And yes, he had 6 touchdowns, but he also had 2 of the worst interceptions I've seen. And so it's just a rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, and repeat, rinse. And there's really nothing that's changed. Their defense isn't like unstoppable. You can score on them. And then it felt like this last year when Josh won the MVP, but it felt different because they were able to run the football. And James Cook had almost like 20 touchdowns last year. And this year, for whatever reason, teams are stopping the run and saying, it's almost like that. And we've said this before on the show. Last year's Ravens game at the beginning of the year, when the Ravens just said, hey, we're just going to play man-to-man coverage. We're going to keep Josh in the pocket, and you're going to look idiotic. And it's sort of what teams have been doing is like, he got sacked, was it 10 times in Houston or 8 times, whatever it was? 8 times. That's absurd. You can't keep him healthy. He was down on the ground a couple times, and they're just coverage sacks because these guys aren't getting open, and there's only so much a quarterback can do. And when you start pressing, it gets worse. So it's just this vicious cycle that I don't see them getting out of.
Yeah, I just think it's a shout out,
if I can add anything.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Kansas City, another offense that was struggling. What did they do to get out of their slump? They ran the crap out of the ball with Kareem Hunt on Sunday. Now, Kareem Hunt is not James Cook. James Cook is much better. Like you said, Buffalo's got to figure out a way to run the ball. As crazy as that sounds with that quarterback back there.
I got to give a shout out to Will Anderson that we have Josh Allen still playing football right now. If anybody's seen the breakdown of one of his sacks coming on the edge, he got Josh low around his knee, ended up releasing, so he didn't do anything to Josh's knee, and then re-grabbed him to come back down, literally in an effort to protect the quarterback while still sacking him. I guess you got to be talented enough as Will Anderson to be able to go out and do that. Is there a final note from from you, Zach, before we bounce, that we didn't touch on that you're looking for in Week 13 that maybe we have overlooked, that really is something you have your eye on?
I'm really concerned about Philadelphia, and I wonder how they answer, because I feel like this is shades of 2 years ago when they started hot. This was Jason Kelsey's final year. They were 10-1, and they absolutely collapsed. They couldn't figure it out. They had gone OC in-house, remember, and it didn't work out with Brian Johnson. They did it again with Kevin Patullo. Serious frustrations in that building. I think that might be the most fascinating team to watch the rest of the regular season.
Man, you really brought back a lot of just like PTSD issues for everybody that I know in Philadelphia. All my family, my sister's probably going like, don't bring up 23. Like, it was a nightmare, but there's a lot of similarities in a lot of people's minds. So I appreciate it, Zach. Coming up, we're going to talk about, Chase and I, a couple of different sides, maybe our 5 favorite Thanksgiving dishes. Maybe Zach wants to stick around. I don't know, but we'll see. Coming up next on Scoop City. All right, closing things up here on a Tuesday special edition of Scoop City. And guess what? Zach stayed because he loves Thanksgiving. I'm not sure if he does or not, but I think he wanted to talk about food because we all love talking about food. What we're going to do is we're going to each go with our 5 favorite dishes from Thanksgiving. And we'll probably give each other some crap about our 5. Yeah. Zach, you are our guest. So you shall go first.
Yeah, you go. So we
your
can
5 favorite things, if you walk into a random house, you're crossing your fingers and hoping they are there, are what?
Okay, so I'm going to seed 4 of my picks. I'm going to go with my number 1, and I don't even care what the other sides are, right? So all the other sides, they all blend together for me. If I don't have stuffing, and it's got to be the right kind of stuffing.
Not dressing,
then I'm out. Yeah. Not dressing, stuffing.
He's walking out the door.
I'm out. I don't care. You can have the greatest mashed potatoes in the world, macaroni and cheese, all the other good stuff. The pies are important at the end. Mm-hmm. But if I don't have the stuffing, I'm out. I don't need the other picks. You guys can have the rest, but I got to get that right.
I like stuffing.
Stuffing's great.
Yeah.
Stuffing is great. Chase?
That's all he does.
That's all he wants. He just wants stuffing. He's going to triple on stuffing.
All right. So first of all, I think that most people would agree with me on this. Turkey, unless it's like fried, is awful. So give me honey baked ham. I hate turkey.
So overrated.
Do not like turkey.
Do you ever go anywhere
dish.
And just order turkey on like a August afternoon? No,
never.
But
now,
Chase,
I will.
If it's smoked, it is elite.
If
it
it's
can be a game changer.
Or fried in that thing, it can. But how often have you had
death trap thing that everybody lowers it?
Yeah. How often have you had overcooked turkey and it's just like dry and it makes you sleepy and it's just like whatever. I'd rather have honey baked ham, stuffing for sure. Like there's no doubt about it.
It's already off the board. Can't have it.
It's already off. Well, yes, I can take it. It's your top 5. You only gave 1, so I get to go. Stuffing for sure. I think mashed potatoes, with gravy or without gravy, depends on the type of gravy it is. Mac and cheese. If it's homemade, mac and cheese for sure. And then I really like. I like carrots. I don't know. Like my wife has this like feta. This like it's
like a whipped feta type
honey
of thing?
Roasted carrots. It's whipped feta that you put on this serving dish, and then it's pomegranate seeds, and it's shaved with dill over top, and then there's carrots on top. So it's a very fresh, vibrant taste. So those are my 3 sides. And then for the pie, I'm only going 1. I'm from Texas. There's a company in Texas, and I'm not going to tell anyone who it is because I do not want you to go out there.
You
and
love them
so
much you don't want to promote them. I love it.
Exactly. They make this pecan pie that is like the best pecan pie with this caramel sauce all over it. I love it.
Oh, wow. Okay. I like it. I like that you
wonder
don't want
if
to
that
promote
company,
them. Are you
now,
nervous?
James, you've had the pie at Texans games, right? In the press box. One of the best spreads in the league. I wonder if it's that same company, because it's like you make one or two or three trips every time you cover a Texans game.
And the Texans have that little individual soft served machine.
Yes.
That gets you soft served ice cream.
They are elite.
Oh, they are outstanding.
All right, James, what about you?
All right, here we go. My meat is what I prepare for Thanksgiving. We go to my sister-in-law's house. I bring it every year. I smoke a prime rib. I love prime rib, and I'm not a turkey person. I'm not a ham person. I'm smoking a prime rib, creamy horseradish. Let's go. That's my number one right there at the top of the list. Second, an appy while I'm walking around having a drink and watching some football. Give me deviled eggs all day.
Love deviled eggs.
I will take deviled eggs all day. And then number 3, my wife is Hispanic. She makes Mexican meatballs called albondigas, which are like spicy, kind of small meatballs, toothpick them. I love grab and goes, as you can tell.
Wow.
Those 3. And then number 4, I'm going to go to my dessert. Like warm apple pie and vanilla vanilla ice cream on top.
You might
like
win this already. Those 4 sound amazing.
I'm going back. I'm changing all my picks. I want James's Thanksgiving catered to mine.
Come on
you
over.
really thought about this.
I really did think about it, and I don't know if it's going to happen this year. I don't know if I talked about this on the show or not, but my brother-in-law shot a moose last year. We're here in Colorado. I'm sitting up in the mountains right now, and we had moose. We had moose tacos as an appetizer, small moose tacos as an. But you only get one moose in your lifetime, so I mean that is the rules. Yeah. You never get another one after you've had one.
How much meat did that?
That's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot of meat. He's also a butcher, so he was able to take care of business. So those are my 5.
4 of your 5 are meat sides. So you like the meats.
I would actually go 5. I'd actually even like I'd definitely go elastic pants and even lose the dessert and go like 5 for 5 on the meats.
James wins.
Okay, wonderful.
Now you're just showing off.
I love. Listen, it's a great time to eat and drink, and I hope everybody enjoys all the football that they get on Thursday, on Friday. Some changes in the seeding of these divisions could already happen before we even hit Sunday. So it's going to be an outstanding week. We'll be back with you at Scoop City next week, breaking down everything that happened in Week 13. Zach, appreciate you joining us, man. Thank you so much, and everybody enjoy your week of football.
Thanks for watching Scoop City. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and feel free to leave a comment. New episodes of Scoop City drop every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday.